Good evening, folks. This is Ron Tyler with the Emergency Management Associates. Hitting the Earth is located around 3.5 miles southeast of the Earth now. The solar wind is also
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be on this planet of ours. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates, coming to you from the Area Command 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. As we've been doing for quite some time, we're going to start off this evening by hearing from the United States Army Band playing the United States National Anthem. Would everybody please rise? Two, we want to thank these beautiful people for rendering the United States National Anthem for us tonight. We appreciate it so ever so much. The National Anthem is something that I personally have gotten used to over the years. My father was in the United States Navy. He was in the service for 37 years. Most of those years were in the Navy Reserve. In the Navy Reserve, he went on deployments for up to a month every summer. Every month, he was required every month to put in a weekend's notice at one of the bases to do his monthly service to the United States Navy. His job was in the kitchen. He went from being a second-class petty officer to a master chief. He cooked dinners, he cooked breakfasts, he cooked lunches, he cooked holiday dinners, made pies, soups, stews, cookies, cakes, you name it, he did it. A while back, and if I had time, I would go and find a picture of him to show you this picture of him, that he made a cake. I told you the story that his CO on the ship called him in and said, "Ted, we are low on supplies. I realize that. We are very low on food, and we're going to just barely get by until we get our next food supply when we pull into our next port." And the crew had done such an excellent job. They had worked their tails off, and the CO said they deserved something as a treat. And he asked my dad, "Is there anything that you can do, that we can do for the crew?" And so my dad thought about it for a night or two. Then he went back to the CO and he told the CO that his CO is the executive officer of his ship that he was on, the USS Cass and Young. The Cass and Young had been deployed to Korea and had shelled the Korean peninsula, keeping the communist North Koreans and the Chinese at bay. And they did all kinds of other service to fellow ships on other ships. And anyway, this one time the captain came to my dad and asked him if he could do something. My dad thought about it, went back to the CO and said, "I want to bake the ship a cake." And the CO goes, "A cake?" He goes, "Yes, a very special cake, a big cake." And so the CO was as I remember the story, the CO was kind of going, "A cake? Really? Cool." So my dad built a cake in the shape of the ship that they were on. He had the guns, the turrets, the main stack of the ship with the ship's offices, the steering mechanisms, everything. He built the ship from stem to stern at a cake. Iced it in gray icing. He even put the ship's number on the side of the stern. Incredible. I've seen several pictures of this throughout my life, and I now have pictures of that cake and pictures of my dad with the CO showing the CO the cake. And he was excited. So folks, I've been around the military most of my life. We lived at one point in San Diego. I visited Camp Pendleton on many occasions. I visited Marine Corps MCRD, which was a training facility for new Marines in San Diego. I visited Naval Station San Diego and Naval Station Coronado, which was a naval air station, and it also had aircraft carriers there. The smaller ships docked at Naval Station San Diego, which was the headquarters of the Pacific Fleet, and still is from what I can gather. But that's my relationship with the Navy. So also I visited other places like Naval Station China Lake. I was out over at El Centro Naval Air Station. I trained Naval Station security and DoD police to investigate traffic accidents. I was a certified homicide investigator when I was a federal police officer out there. I trained all the police officers. I was a weapons instructor on all kinds of police tactics and weapons. So I was around naval people all the time. Charles Helm just gave us a $20 super chat. I appreciate that more than you know, Charles. I appreciate that so very much. God bless you for that, Charles. God, you are awesome. I appreciate all of you who contribute to our program, either by being in the chat room, for giving us super chats, for donating to our Venmo or our PayPal locations, or even sending us money through the mail in terms of checks and money orders and cash, even in cards and letters that the money's wrapped up in. We really appreciate that. I told you that NANOGAF from Pennsylvania sent us a check the other day that I got out of the mail on Tuesday. I appreciate that so very much. You guys who help support our program keep the lights on here. I just got a notification earlier this week that the rent is going up in September 1st. So the rent's gone up, the internet services has gone up, it continues to go up. And so keeping this program on the air is unceasingly becoming expensive. And it's not just internet. It's applications to pull information from to tell you about. So we try to keep up with that on a daily basis, literally. And I've got a lot of information to give you tonight. But anyway, guys, I've been around the military a lot. Those of you that have sent me information about your fathers, your sons and daughters, and even yourselves having served in the military and in the police departments and federal police departments throughout your areas in the United States and even abroad. We appreciate that ever so much. We thank you for your service. That is one of the greatest things that we can do for our fellow men, is be in the service of our fellow beings. And I appreciate all that you do as well. Thank you for your contributions. It's unceasingly great. We get emails from you guys, we get messages from you guys. It's great. Now, I had a funny message from last night's program, after last night's program. It was somewhat hilarious. I laughed for about 5 minutes. I'm trying to bring up that page to talk to you about it right now because it was funny. It was a riot. Just a second here. I get a kick out of all the things that you do for us. When I made a comment that YouTube judges us by the number of comments that you leave underneath the videos that we put up. And it's true, they judge us by everything. But one of the comments that I got from last night's program was hilarious. Let me try to find it here. I've got it. Someone said, I am the role model. I've never been told that ever before, and I appreciate that. This person said for the past several years that they've been watching, I deserve the title of Director of USGS. Oh yes, I would love that. I would get the biggest kick out of that if I was promoted by the government to be head of the USGS, and I promise you, I would kick some keister. I would not listen and go after the pundits. I would not listen to any of the people that get paid to influence people in the government. I would listen to my fellow constituents in the United States. I would not, I repeat, I would not be subject to congressional people telling me how to operate the organization in terms of not telling people the full truth. That, I tell you that. And if someone from DC, Biden's office, or from the, what's the department that handles the USGS, Now I can't even remember what other department runs it, but I would not do anything but report the truth to the world, because we want to make sure the world and the people in the United States especially that we are beholden to make sure we give them accurate information about what's going on. By the way, I had a little angel whisper in my ear just now. Not an angel, but a voice from Earthquake Tracker that is telling us about an earthquake that happened over in Montana just a short while ago, and I mean just probably 15 minutes ago. It came out as a 4.2 magnitude earthquake. It's been upgraded to a 4.4. Now USGS may or may not put it up. I really don't care anymore, because they decide what they're going to do and what they're not going to do. They don't care about any individual citizens. They just don't. They just don't. Mary Greeley, who is a friend of mine, reports on Yellowstone. And usually Mary Greeley deserves a Presidential Merit Citation for the work that she does. Because again, USGS does not report it. 90% of everything that goes on at Yellowstone, Wyoming, Montana, Idaho area, USGS did not put out. You have to go over to the University of Utah that monitors all of the seismographs in Yellowstone, Wyoming, Idaho, and Montana. You have to go over there and pull information. And sometimes even the University of Utah does not put out all the information either, for whatever reason. And I have friends within the University of Utah Seismology department that come to me and talk to me. I always monitor the University of Utah Seismology department to make sure I have the latest information about what's going on in Yellowstone. But Mary Greeley is spot on with 90% of everything that she talks about. Occasionally, she'll tell us that Yellowstone's going to blow, when I don't believe it is, and it has not blown. Now, I consider her a very close friend. If Mary Greeley called me and told me to jump to the moon tonight, I would ask, how far up do you want me to go, and which mountain in the moon do you want me to land on? Okay? That's the kind of person I think Mary Greeley is. Okay? But it's amazing what we find out through going and investigating ourselves. Because the government, and I don't care what department is within the government, state, local, or federal, they all don't put up the information. They all don't put up all of the information for whatever reason. And I'm tired of thinking of reasons that they don't do it. Okay? I get information from the University of Wyoming, the University of Montana, the University of Idaho, the University of Utah, from the University of Washington, Pacific Northwest Seismic Network that's run by the University of Washington, the University of Oregon. I get information from Caltech. I get information from the USGS. I get information from the USGS Lassen Volcano Observatory, the California Volcanic Observatory. I get information from almost every country, literally. And I try to put it out when I think it's something that everybody ought to know, when it's a big enough earthquake that everybody needs to know about it. Okay? Ones and twos, unless there's a huge swarm, a lot of people really don't care. But if there's a swarm, everybody needs to know about it. Now, I want to stop really quick and talk about Danish Girl in the chat. She just gave us a $200 super chat. She said, I asked the Lord who I should give it to, and it is you, Ron. You are so appreciated. Much love to you. Much love to you, Danish girl. I've seen you in the chat for some time now. I really appreciate you and everybody here being here with us. You guys, all of you here in our chat, mean the world to me, because you guys are here to gather information for yourselves, your families, and your loved ones. You also pass this on to a lot of other people, which we greatly appreciate. Not just because we're trying to grow our community here on the Emergency Management Associates, yes we are, but we're also trying to get this information out to the world, to as many people as possible, to help protect people, to save people's lives, and even helping them to save their own souls. Think about that one for a while. Okay? Anyway, one of the comments from last night says, you're absolutely right, Ron. It is the leaderships of these organizations that are corrupt and evil. Money and power sucks them in. It's called greed. Then the governments tell them what to do. And Satan's kids tell the government what to do. The organization, and again, I'm not going to put this by verbal from my mouth, but I am going to point it out to you in just a second what agency this is, but I think most of you know what I'm talking about when I put this out here. It's this organization right here. Please don't put this in the chat. You all know who I'm talking about when we speak about this organization here. Okay? Those people don't do anything but try to control us, and control us in a very bad way, revoking our freedoms and our citizenships even in our own countries. Yes, folks, they're trying to revoke our citizenships to our own countries. The sovereignty of our countries is at risk. They want the world to be one country. Okay? Not going to happen. One world beast system at our door, according to Mary Cherry here. And she's right. Okay? I'm still trying to find this funny comment. It was talked about last night here. And I mean, it was funny. It was so darn funny. Oh gosh, where'd it go? Okay, just a second. I've got another way to find this. I always have another way to find this. James Baraka just gave us another $5 super chat. Thank you, James. God bless you for that. Doggone, I love you guys. You guys are really the best. I swear. You guys are awesome. Renee Steffi is talking about storms here in the chat. No storms tonight. Renee, guess what? There have been storms. We had a very violent thunderstorm come from here or through here, and you could see cloud to ground lightning. You could see cloud to cloud lightning. It looked like it was going to hit over here on the east side of Morganton. It went over into Valdese and went east into Hickory. Hickory is the next largest small town east of here, and it was threatening. It was big time threatening. It has since left here. It looks like there's still some clouds out here, but it's not as bad as it was. Renee Steffi says, no storms today, just hot and sunny in Shelby, North Carolina. Here, I live north and west of Steffi here. And where I live, where Renee Steffi lives, I live in Morganton, North Carolina. And unbearably hot this morning. Almost totally clear skies. Maybe once in a while a fluffy cloud would go through. But by 12 noon the clouds started rolling in, and it got pretty ugly for a while. And I ran to the post office thinking that I better get there or we're going to be in trouble. So I ran, literally skipped to the post office as fast as I could skip. And I got there and it looked really bad. And as I came back west, guess what? The bad stuff stayed mostly, and I'm going to say mostly, it stayed mostly to the east. We did get some misty clouds. We got some drizzle here, and then it stopped, literally. And like I said, now we have some high clouds here, but we don't have the threatening stuff that we had here, which I'm grateful for. Believe me, I'm so very grateful for it. It could be a lot worse. But anyway, needless to say, that was something else, literally. And I'm glad I'm home. The land of the free, the home of the brave, and the home where it's starting to cool down from 97 degrees like it was earlier. And I'm not kidding, guys. It was hot, hot, hot. Okay? Even my flags were not waving. They were straight down. There was no breeze, no wind, no nothing. Up in the upper atmosphere there was. Okay? But down here on the ground, nothing was going on. It was not fun. Okay? My dogs went out earlier this morning and they came back in. Okay? And I can't blame them for that. Okay? It was crazy. This was the comments that I'm referring to right now came to us on July 12th, which was 2 days ago. Okay? Daughter of a Master Chief, Navy, saluting you. Thank you for your service. God bless you. Someone here, user DF7 on and on. I know why they did that. They can't think of any other username here on YouTube, and that's fine. But they said, too bad they don't list the earthquakes around the New Madrid like they do all California earthquake and the areas getting hit. Huh. User D7, DF7, KN9, on and on. Guess what? Caltech doesn't even list all the earthquakes in California. USGS doesn't list all the earthquakes in California. It's no wonder that the USGS can't even list earthquakes along the New Madrid until you go over and get into the University of Nashville, Tennessee, and all of a sudden you go to their seismology department, and like I said, this is just one of many seismology departments at universities I go to, and all of a sudden I see all these earthquakes that hit on the New Madrid Fault, and all the earthquakes that have hit up along the eastern seaboard. Yeah, folks, that happens. Just so you know, last year, Pennsylvania, the University of Pennsylvania was gifted thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars. They bought 50 seismographs and installed them all over Pennsylvania. And hopefully, starting very soon, we'll have information of the earthquakes and tremors that are hitting in Pennsylvania, because right now we don't have that information. The University of Memphis in Tennessee gives us 2 Pennsylvania locations where they're not showing any activity. So right now we don't have anything out of Pennsylvania, but hopefully very soon we'll have more and more information out of Pennsylvania, and as soon as we do, we're going to pass it on to you. Okay? It's crazy. It literally is. Someone else says here, people don't prepare around the Pneumatic Fault because they're not posting these quakes for people to see. And that's exactly my point about everything that we talk about on this channel. We talk about it because no one else is. No one else is giving the people who pay taxes the information they need to save their lives. That's the bottom line. That's the bottom line about that. Now, there was one other, okay, I'm trying to find these comments that I started talking to you, about just a few minutes ago, and I can't find them now. I even left a comment about the comment that I wanted to talk to you about, and now I can't see it. I don't see it. And if you give me another minute, I'm going to go and try to find it. There's only a couple other programs it might be on. And by the way, guys, I am staying in contact with my friend Larry's family and his friends in Belize. And as soon as I have any more information about that, I'm going to pass that on to you, because Larry still is a very dear friend of mine. He might be gone from this earth, but he is not gone from our thoughts and our minds. And I feel it a duty to pass that information on to you. I want to talk to you about his obituary. If I get information about his services there in Belize or elsewhere, I will also pass that on to you. I think everybody deserves that. Okay? But now I'm not seeing any information, even from last night's program, that blows my mind. Because I thought that those comments I reported on came from last night's program. And I'm just briefly going through that again now. Nope, not there. Let me check one more time in another place, and then I'm going to go moving on here. I just truly want to thank you for your help. I want to thank you for everything that you do for me. I want to thank you for your comments, for your help with us. I've had a lot of health problems the last year. As you know, a year ago this past January, I was diagnosed with cancer. And you know, I think you all know what I'm talking about when I talk to you about when you find out from your doctor that you may or you do have cancer. It's a horrible feeling. It truly is. Then they finally started treatment in September of last year, going about 6 months before they even start treatment. And I thought I was going to be a goner, because cancer moves so fast. All three of our parents my father, my mother, and our stepmother all died from cancer. And going 6 months and not having them do anything scared the living kapok out of me. You guys helped me keep my head on straight. Then you have been helping me pay these medical bills that are skyrocketed. I just was sent another medical bill that I did not even know about in the mail about a week ago, and it's $1,900. Where am I going to pull that out of? And I appreciate all of you helping me. It means a great deal to me. You don't know how deep that is to me. It really means the world to me. I saw my dear friend Carolyn from Denver here. She knows me very well. She and I have been friends for about 23 years. And we've gone back and forth over a lot of different issues throughout our lives. And I appreciate her being a part of my life and helping me, giving me information almost on a daily basis. That means a lot. It's quite something. It's quite something when I have friends and neighbors and loved ones in my EMA family who send me information for all of you and help share information and put it on the air. Okay? I still haven't run into that one comment, but as soon as I find it, I will let you know about it because it was great. And Carolyn Martin put a comment here in the chat, not in the chat, I'm sorry, not the comment in the chat, but she put a comment under one of our programs here saying the head of the Wagner group we told you about, Prigozhin, who was one of President Putin's right-hand men, who owned restaurants in Moscow that Putin went to. But what I didn't know, and Carolyn told me just now about in this comment, well, this is 2 weeks ago, the head of the Wagner Group was a convicted criminal who spent time in a Russian prison before becoming a chef, opening up high-end restaurants. He links to criminals and felons led to his establishing these monsters in a mercenary force. So yeah, that figures, okay? That figures. Gosh, I wish I could find that one comment. It was hilarious. I can't find it right now. There's another one I'm going to go back to here that I had to laugh at as I peruse it here. And I'm going to go back to it here because it was good. Oh, here it is. Here's the comment that Tommy sent 2 weeks ago. He says, question, Ron, is it true troops will be confiscating food and nugs from citizens to force us to take the jungle juice and the digital dollar? Mike Adams and Steve Quayle set the house on fire. Wow, remember, control the food and you control the people. Wake up, folks. This will be forced on us. It will. That will be forced on us. And I want to add to that. Okay? I need to add to that. One of the things that I found out today, and I know that my buddy Surgery is monitoring our channel tonight. And you guys know how much I care about Surgery. He is a good man. Okay? Now he sends me information from the Texas News Studio. He sends me a lot of information from the Texas News Studio. You guys knew this because I put this on the air last night. Okay? 3,000 troops were called up for duty. 3,000 reserve troops were called up for duty to report to Ukraine. They're being sent to Ukraine. Now, we get further update on that. Okay? There's 3,450 troops being sent to Europe. 3,000 military reservists and ready reserves are being called up to be deployed to Ukraine, along with 450 individual ready reserves who were called up yesterday and will soon be deployed to Europe in a logistics and intel capacity to support a major deployment of roughly 80,000 soldiers. Not just 3,000, not 3,450, but a deployment of roughly 80,000 soldiers and airmen, which will be stationed in the European theater until further notice. Okay? Stormrider says Germany is sending a lot too, and I'm sure there are other governments around the world that are sending troops, including Sweden and Norway and Finland. Okay? I know that's happening. Other nations have also sent equipment and money to the UKR. I should not have said that word earlier. I'm sorry for that. I hope they don't take us off the air because I said that word. They sent to the UKR. Biden is being called on the carpet for all the money, the weapon systems, and everything else he sent to UKR. He and his son Hunter are being called on the carpet for it. If you have not been monitoring the YouTube groups as I have, and it's just not one agency, it's just not one company's groups that are monitoring what's going on in Washington, including congressional and Senate hearings. Okay? I do monitor all of that. And now Biden is being held to account because he has just arbitrarily decided we're sending all this money, all this equipment to UKR, regardless of what happens. He has not gone to Congress for permission to send it all over to Europe. He hasn't done that. Taiwan has sent Hawk missiles to be deployed in the UKR, and they're going through the United States. Taiwan is sending the Hawk missiles, which are realistically long range missiles to UKR through the United States. Okay? North Korea has and it has consistently hinting that very unkind things await the United States if they don't drop their hostile policies. Their hostile policies. Okay? That's the latest threat from the little man in North Korea. Now, there is a uranium plant explosion in Russia that is sparking radiation fears. Now, I don't have much more information than that, but there's been a uranium plant explosion in Russia, okay, sparking radiation fears. Why? Because when there's an explosion, all that radiation goes up into the atmosphere. And the winds, being what they are, whether they're just trade winds, whether they're low surface winds, whether they get that smoke and ash and radiation gets up into the jet stream where it will travel great distances around the world 3 or 4 times, dropping that radiation all over the world, including Alaska, Canada, and the United States before it gets anywhere else. Okay? Now, in talking about UKR, Putin is on the brink as Russian allies have tipped to abandon Russia's Putin over UKR's NATO bid. UKR is about to join NATO. Last weekend there was a NATO summit in Finland. Our country, as well as other leaders from all over the world, met there. They admitted Finland and Sweden to NATO. Norway had already been admitted to NATO, as has Denmark. So now we have the entire Scandinavian part of the world admitted to NATO. And the United States has already been drilling with Finnish forces up near the border with Russia in Finland. So the United States military is familiar with that area in case Putin and his, I believe, 70,000 troops that line that part of the border up there do something stupid and try to invade Scandinavia again. Okay? So that's what's going on. It's entirely crazy. Vladimir Putin can see his dwindling list of allies disappear, with UKR aiming for a spot in NATO. Members of the alliance met in Vilnius this weekend to officially welcome Sweden and Finland into the organization, and they reiterated their commitment to welcoming Kiev to the table as soon as further democratic reforms are rolled out. Geopolitical expert Irina Sukerman, Tsukerman, and I think I'm right in pronouncing that, geopolitical expert Irina Sukerman told the Daily Express, which is a British news outlet, that UKR's entry into NATO would deliver a final blow to Putin's international alliances, as no partner will be willing to risk access to the Western markets to support Russia. There will be no country that wants to risk cutting off the West, because then the world economy would fall flat on its face. Irina Sukerman argued that despite the fiery rhetoric that the Russian leader has been pushing since the start of the conflict, Moscow is not prepared to take on NATO and would likely push for a deal in the event of UKR joining the alliance. She said, contrary to its rhetoric, Russia is not ready to go to war with all of the world, all of NATO, even with its ally in Belarus in tow. When we reported on the Wagner Group and Prigozhin stopping his march into Moscow and him coming to a deal with Putin through the president of Belarus's knowledge. The Belarusian president, Lukashenko, met with the Wagner Group, Prigozhin, and they made a deal with Putin that Prigozhin would go into Belarus, and most of Prigozhin's forces, his militia, went with him. And they built a army base of their own in Belarus. So they're already in Belarus, ready to make a stop off or leave Belarus en route to some other country at the admonition of Putin. We told you that Prigozhin had been told by Putin when Prigozhin started to walk on to Moscow that Putin was not happy and Prigozhin would be in trouble. Then it stopped. But what's going to happen to Prigozhin now? Is he going to be left alone with those mercenary troops in Belarus? Or is Putin going to end him for having gone on towards Moscow? And in going towards Moscow, Prigozhin and his military, or shall I say his mercenary people, stopped in that town in Russia that was the main supply center for arms and munitions in Russia. And I just briefly mentioned this the other day, the last time we were talking about this. What did Prigozhin's militia, his mercenaries, take from that military base? What kind of arms, what kind of weapons did they take? Is Prigozhin and the Wagner Group now a military nuclear threat? Because guess what? That's where nuclear weapons were in Russia. Is Wagner a nuclear threat now? We don't know. Laura Marie just hopped in here from Oregon. She says, hello from Oregon, EMA friends, better late than never. I've been working in the vegetable garden. Laura Marie, I did that earlier, before it really got hot. Then it got hot. So welcome here, Laura Marie. We appreciate you. Laura Marie is a dear friend of mine from way back. I've told you about her before. Hardeep apparently doesn't want to be part of our program. He says, who cares, really? Goodbye. Hardeep was censored by one of our mods here, which I greatly appreciate, and I just removed him. Okay? I'm sorry if you don't care. If you don't care, there's a switch here. It's called the off switch. And I'm sorry to say that. I welcome everybody here. I give you this information because you might need it. I don't sit here compiling information just because. Okay? I just don't do that. But if you say you don't care, okay, goodbye. It's easy as that. Okay? And speaking of which, There's another gentleman that has reared his head in comments on this channel. Comments in the chat and comments after our program. He claims to be Charles Richter. He's not. He's using the name of Charles Richter. Who's Charles Richter? Can you say? Do you remember who Charles Richter was? Having to do with inventing the Richter scale? Yeah. He's not Charles Richter. He's a, what shall I say, an infiltrator from USGS. I made him go away too earlier this afternoon after I saw his negative feedback on the information that I've been giving you about the Imperial Valley in California. He thinks I don't know what I'm talking about and need to go back to school. No, I don't. I already knew what he was talking about because I passed that information on to you. Okay? Again, I don't care about people about these negative comments. If you have a negative comment, email me, message me. Don't put it out for the world. Let's talk about it. Okay? I don't criticize you people. I don't criticize anyone, one, behind their backs, and two, I don't criticize them in front of the world until they have done a no-no. And as with Charles Richter and other people, or this man that claims to be Charles Richter who he isn't, goodbye. Have a nice day. Okay? Don Patoka says only you can turn the switch on off. It's your decision. He's right. You know, and then Renee Steffi just said in the chat, they will care when crap hits close to their home. Unfortunately, we cannot ignore what's going on around us, and that has been my entire point since day one. Okay? Richard Smith says, I still would vote for Ron in Grand Inquisitor office. Oh yeah, thank you. Thanks, Richard. I would take you with me as my assistant. Oh gosh, that's great. That's great. Anyway, guys, let's go on here. I've got a lot of information to cover, a ton. But I want to know that I appreciate all this information that you're giving me. I appreciate the funnies. I appreciate the real serious information. This Zuckerman lady said that Moscow's not prepared to take on NATO and would likely push for a deal in the event UKR joined the alliance of NATO. She said, contrary to his rhetoric, Russia's not ready to go to war with all of NATO, even with its ally Belarus in tow. Moreover, while there's been some concern about Russian nuclear threats, joint consideration and coordination could focus in intelligence efforts on disrupting Russia's access to its arsenal and preventing these threats from ever becoming viable. Okay? Joint coordination and intelligence efforts bent on disrupting Russian access to its arsenal and preventing these threats from ever becoming viable. That's one of the keys here. Okay? That's one of the keys. Keep going, Don. You're on the roll. Don says when it's perceived to violate convenience or disrupt the status quo, folks scoff at the truth. Ask the guidance of the still small voice to discern truth in the management of situational experiences, and also not just situational, but spiritual situational experiences as well. And I think Don also meant that too. Okay? It's crazy. Aubrey's telling Laura Marie in the chat, glad your crops are flourishing. And I imagine they are. I've seen Laura Marie in action. She sent me pictures of her gardens, her flower gardens, her horses in the past. Laura, I appreciate those. I think I might still, yes, in fact, I have one of Laura Marie's cards on my back wall here, right behind me. Okay? This one right here. Okay? It's a picture of one of her horses. That's a picture of one of her horses behind me there. Okay? I love it. Anyway, getting back to what this Zuckerman lady says, there can also be an indirect effect on sending a message to non-Western countries that have strengthened their relationships with Russia, including Iran, Iraq, Turkey, Syria. Yeah. Okay? If all of NATO were to publicly admit to prioritizing UKR in a unified effort and take a position of Russia being an existential threat to their own security requiring intervention, these countries could be forced to make a choice of moving away from Russia to preserve access to Western financial systems, defense, relationships, and more. She also dispelled fears that UKR's membership would automatically result in a nuclear conflict with Moscow under Article 5 of the NATO rules. Okay? I believe that's true. Okay? Russia said that if the United States or the Western nations got involved with UKR, it would result in a nuclear confrontation. That's what he promised. That was out of Putin's mouth. The NATO treaty article dictates member countries could intervene to support fellow members if attacked by a third party. Zuckerman argued that the treaty could not clarify what type of military support would be required. She continued, the worst possible case scenario is the need to invoke Article 5, which would force all of NATO to come to Ukraine's collective defense. And there I said that word again. YT doesn't like it. And they even said as much in a memo to me before allowing me to even be on this channel. Anyway, getting back to this. Ironically, however, that the deal with NATO is not really such a bad outcome, because the mere threat of that happening could be enough to force Russia to flee. And second, there's no clear definition with what assistance should look like. So these NATO members could coordinate in a way to minimize risk and maximize strategic advantage, devastating Russian positions without incurring much of a response. Okay? Linda Covington, I'm not going to forget what you just said. I'll get back to that in just a minute. Linda Covington made a comment in the chat here. I will get back to that. Okay? Zuckerman added that the real risk in this scenario is conventional rather than nuclear. But, to step away from this narrative for just a second, conventional weapons could be just as bad, maybe even worse at times, than a nuclear blast. Okay? I'm just saying. I've seen what conventional weapons can do, and it's not pretty. Okay? Which Russia could look at to expand the conflict by dragging in assorted mercenaries, the Wagner Group, terrorist groups, and state actors such as Iran, who are already engaging in violations of European national sovereignty through attempted attacks and assassination attempts. That is far more likely to happen than anything else. But It could also potentially happen if Ukraine is never admitted to NATO. And there I said it again 3 times in the last 30 minutes. Ultimately, Europe can ill afford to allow an authoritarian liberal regime to dictate the terms of its own security. President Biden yesterday offered the U.S. and allied commitment to UKR. He said, quote, "We will not weaken," unquote, as he highlighted NATO support for Kiev more than 500 days after Russia's first invasion. Speaking at the conclusion of the alliance's annual summit this past weekend, Biden told the crowd of thousands of cheering people, quote, "Our unity will not falter, I promise you." Isn't that interesting? He actually made a statement that made sense. Okay? Maybe he can read a teleprompter, or maybe he's listening to that voice in his ear. Biden said the response to UKR crisis is a model for the U.S. and its allies for how to respond to other global challenges, from climate change to China. Again, Biden brought up the left-wing communist ideas to stop our growth and to usher in the Communist Agenda 30, saying that their position is even stronger when they build the broadest and deepest alliance. Yes, NATO's strength is building the broadest and deepest alliance. It's true. Biden praised UKR's defenders and their Western backers, who sent billions in weapons and economic aid and assistance to support that country's fight against Russia. Biden said again, "We will not waver. I mean that our commitment to UKR will not weaken. We will stand for freedom today, tomorrow, and for as long as it takes." Really, Mr. Biden? Really? When Mr. Biden attempts to take our freedoms away here, Biden and his administration got smacked upside the head by the United States Supreme Court last week. Biden and his administration got their hands slapped for going to the big tech firms here in the United States and the world and telling the big tech firms to censor us. Yeah. Even here on YouTube, if I had made the statements I made tonight, YouTube would have taken me down permanently and forever, just a few months ago. There's still things that I will not say on the air. I can think them, I can put them on FB, and I get away for it, or with it right now. But FB, YouTube, and several other media firms, including Twitter and other social media, people are still getting their hands slapped. Because Biden has told them to slap hands and take statements down. I have friends that have lost their Facebook pages because Zuckerberg said, "No, you can't say that." Yeah. We have almost lost our free speech entirely. Media organizations are being slapped upside the head and are being censored for saying one thing or another that Biden and his henchmen don't want said. And Congress is starting to take action. I called Representative Jim Jordan this morning. I have spoken to Mike Lee. I have spoken to Dan Bongino. He has his own show. But he also got taken off YouTube. A lot of people have been slapped upside the head and have had duct tape put on their mouths and not to say anything. Because Biden and the Communist Agenda 30 people don't want us to put in our 2 cents. Fact. Fact. Now, Linda Covington said, and I'm going back to her comment right now. I haven't forgotten about it. Let's see here. I hate dead air. When I was in radio, you can't have dead air. You just can't. The radio station will shut you down. You'll lose your job. And here I am talking to you guys, and all of a sudden I have a few seconds of dead air, trying to find the information I wanted to. Linda Covington says 45 was the only past president that did not try to start a war in recent history. He actually ended 2 wars when he was in power. Linda Covington says, I'm a fan and follower and in support of all mentioned. I agree, as am I. Carl Sr. says, pray for this channel, and I appreciate that more than you know. We need prayer, absolutely, because I'm tired of fighting the battle by myself. Okay, it's true. Aubrey's saying that she's been having internet troubles for 2 days affecting YouTube and searches. I've been told that some people are having trouble finding emergency management associates. Isn't that interesting? Because we are in a battle for our rights, and I've mentioned that. I have mentioned that how many times throughout months and years. We're in a battle for our rights. It's crazy. Nathan Hester talked, and I heard it come through my ear just a few minutes ago. There was a 4.5, there was a 4.3, and now a 4.2 that hit Yellowstone within the past 40 minutes. Yellowstone is getting beat up. Okay? Yellowstone is getting beat up. Let me try to pull up a map of Yellowstone. Let's talk about Yellowstone for a minute. I've got quite a bit more to talk about. Okay? Yes, we came on the air about 35-40 minutes late than I wanted to. I had almost everything ready until at the last minute I was finding information out that I wanted to put on the air, and now I can't find it. Okay? But let's go over and take a look at the USGS map, and let's see if they're actually showing what's going on up in Yellowstone. Okay, we've got it. Let's zoom in here and show you what's going on. Okay, there's the 3 earthquakes, actually more than that. There's a bunch of tremors here as well. Let's start off with this big one. This was a 4.5, they reduced to a 4.2. Okay? Then they've got this 2.3. They've got this 1.7. They've got this 1.1. They've got this 1.8. All of these are in Lima, Montana, guys. Lima, Montana has had quite a few, shall I say, swarmy earthquakes and tremors the past week. This is not the only time that we've seen earthquake swarms hit Lima, Montana. I've been watching this literally all week long. Lima, Montana is north of Yellowstone. It's north of Yellowstone. Okay? This happens literally all the time. All the time. Over here to the southwest. This is Leodore, Idaho. This is over on the eastern side of Idaho. This is in the Yellowstone caldera. In the Yellowstone caldera. This earthquake here is in Challis, Idaho. This is also in the Yellowstone caldera. This is the western edge of the Yellowstone caldera. North of there, okay, Adler, Montana's got a 1.2, and they've also got this seemingly quarry blast that this wonderful agency puts up. Okay, this is a 1.4 quarry blast 3 miles east-southeast of Adler, Montana. Let's see. Look where this quarry blast is. Okay, this is the quarry. Guess what? This quarry's probably 3 miles away from this blast, or the blast is 3 miles away from the quarry. Okay? Now, I want you to look at the mileage here. Okay? Look at the mileage here. 500 miles. Okay? So it's not just 1 or 2 miles here. I misspoke here. Look how long an inch is here. 1 inch is equal to 500 miles. So there's like 2.5 inches here. So that alleged quarry blast is 500. I'm sorry, I was wrong. That's 500 meters. 500 times 3. That's 1,500 feet. But that doesn't even figure here because 2,000 feet are equal to about 1.25 inches. Okay? So this tells me that this is at least 4,000 feet away. Maybe even close to 1 mile away. So this quarry blast is over 1 mile away from the quarry. Are they trying to open up another quarry here? Look at this. Okay, I've zoomed in as far as I can go here. There's other digs around here, and I'm not saying they have anything to do with quarries, because I don't believe they do. This is in a mountainous area. I don't believe this has anything to do with quarries. Okay, it's about 1 mile away. Miles 5,280 feet. This is over 4,000 feet away. Okay? It's quite far away from this quarry. I don't think this is a quarry blast. This is also 1.2 miles deep. They do not have quarries 1.25 miles deep or 1.5 miles deep. This is 1.2 miles deep. Sorry, USGS. Boing, bong. Okay? It's not a quarry blast. That's a tremor over near Alder, Montana. Okay? Not a quarry blast, guys. Sorry. If the glove doesn't fit, we must acquit. Where have I heard that from? Any of you know where that came from? Okay? Again, see where this earthquake hit near Lima, Montana? If we go over here to the east, okay? Over here is Yellowstone Lake. Yellowstone Lake. We have an earthquake northeast of there. This is a 0.9 tremor, microquake. Okay? 22 miles south of Silvergate, Montana. It's also 8.8 miles deep. Okay? That's a deep earthquake. This is in the Yellowstone magma chamber. This might be down in the magma chamber here. Again, this is Yellowstone. Yellowstone magma chamber is the size of 11 Grand Canyons. The size of 11 Grand Canyons. And this is in the Yellowstone magma chamber. Okay? So that's what's happening in and around Yellowstone, Montana, Wyoming, and Idaho today. Yes, I'm sure there are other earthquakes around here and tremors, but again, USGS does not have the chutzpah or chutzpah to give us correct information. They're just not going to do it. They have never done it. Okay? It's incredible. Now, I want to go west here. We are going to get to talking about Cascadia. Wouldn't that be nice? They did it to me again. They're going to do it to me again and again and again. Okay? USGS stopped me from showing you the earthquakes on the map here. So I'm going around them, as I've done in the past, because we have to talk about the earthquakes. I'm going to talk about earthquakes in just a second here. Okay? Because there's a lot to talk about. Really, there's a ton. Over here, this is Oregon. This is Eastern Oregon, Echo, Oregon. This is a 1.6 tremor here in Eastern Oregon, 1 mile south of Echo, Oregon. A 1.6 tremor, and it's 4.8 miles deep. Okay? What do we know about Oregon? There are volcanoes, aren't there? Volcanoes everywhere. This is in Status, Washington, in southern Washington. Okay? Southern Washington. Now the volcanoes are over here. For example, Mount Hood is right there. That's Mount Hood. Okay? So this earthquake over here is northeast of Mount Hood. This tremor, 1.0 tremor, is over in Status, Washington. This is only 1/10 of a mile deep. Okay? This is also east of another volcano. This is Mount Adams. Mount Adams. Okay? Now, where this one is in Status, Washington, we also need to know that this area has basalt rock all over the place, meaning that this is volcanic territory as well. Whether there's an active volcano here, whether the lava came out here and deposited itself out here, or maybe there is another volcano out here. How do we know that? Because, folks, we've done a little bit of research. We've had basaltic lava fields that we have found all over the place. In places where Mount Rainier, Glacier Peak, Mount Baker could not have deposited that lava there. Okay? We've talked about this in previous programs, even on the other channel for the most part, I believe. Okay? So this area right here at Status, S-A-T-U-S, Washington, might also be a volcano. Okay? I'm not saying it's not. I'm saying there's a good possibility of it. Okay? A good possibility. It's, like I said, it's east of Mount Adams. But we go over here to the west, over to Mount St. Helens, and we have another earthquake. Right, two of them, right on the rim of Mount St. Helens, literally. Okay? This one here is a 0.2. And USGS keeps saying, oh, this is 23 miles northeast of Amboy, Washington. Folks, this is not. USGS is not anywhere near Amboy, Washington. This is at the volcano, Mount St. Helens. USGS, get your heads out. This one is a 0.1 microquake at Mount St. Helens, not at Amboy, Washington, or anywhere near Amboy, Washington, USGS. Again, they can't tell the truth, because if people knew the truth, then all of a sudden USGS would have their pants in a knot. They'd have their panties in a wad. Because not only have we had 2 tremors at Mount St. Helens, there have been dozens of minor earthquakes and tremors. And I'm saying dozens, as in 24, 30, maybe even close to 40 tremors, microquakes, and minor earthquakes at Mount St. Helens today. Okay, fact. Over here, now this is a kick. This is a real kick for me, because again, USGS is calling this a 0.9 microquake, 1.0 tremor that I call it, because this is again the 0.9 society. 0.9 anything, it's always above that. So I'm calling this to be at least a 1.0 tremor. 17 miles north of Amboy. Hey guys, this is not at Amboy. Call it what it is. Okay? This looks to be an earthquake fault. It looks to be a good-sized earthquake fault. Look at that. It runs everywhere, doesn't it? I don't know the name of the fault. I'm just saying USGS does. Why don't they say it's there? They don't want to admit there's earthquakes either, I'm sure of it. Okay? This is one of their alleged... I just love this. They say this is an explosion. They have explosions and they have quarry blasts. Same difference. Some quarry blasts are near quarries, others are not. They're calling this an explosion in a forested area there in Washington, southeast of Mossy Rock, Washington. Folks, this is not an explosion. This is a 1/4 of a mile deep, number one. Number two, this is in a forested area. A 1.0 explosion. You know, what I've got to say is they call spontaneous combustus carnivorous a spontaneous exploding tree. A spontaneous exploding tree. Okay? Why are they doing it? Because they don't want to admit that anything is going on. Why not? Be honest about it. This is northwest of Mount St. Helens. This also might be magma related. Magma underground, underneath the surface. The surface is where you and I walk on it, right? Absolutely. Yet, northwest of there, and this is a greater distance, okay? This is also supposedly an explosion. Northwest of Oakville, Washington, a 1.2 tremor explosion. This is 1/10 of a mile deep. An explosion again in a forested area. There is no commercial area here. There's no quarries anywhere near it, is there? Spontaneous combustus carnivorous. Isn't that interesting? Okay? Look at this area here, guys. I'm doing this for a reason. Look at this area here around the Puget Sound and this strait right here, the Strait of Juan de Fuca. Okay? I want to show you images now of this area. USGS is showing us nothing happening here. Not nothing. Not nothing, huh? Interesting. Let's leave the USGS map. I want to show you what is going on. Oh, isn't that interesting? I'm going to talk about Mexico in a few minutes, guys. Early this morning, we had a very strong earthquake, a 6.4, down just off the coast of southern Mexico. And we're going to get to that. Okay? But I want to show you this. Okay? These are earthquakes that have hit, tremors that have hit, and I'm talking earthquakes and tremors that have hit in the Pacific Northwest. I'm including south down in Northern California. Okay? Now I'm going to enlarge this so people that can't see very well see what I'm talking about. Okay? 2 days ago, this is a 1.7 tremor, Friday Harbor, Washington. I got a call late last night, and I returned the call this morning from a lady at Friday Harbor, Washington, that can see Mount Constitution from her house. This is 9.8 kilometers away from Friday Harbor. Okay? A 1.7 tremor. Here's one here, a 1.9, 2.0 earthquake, 10.3 kilometers from Longview, Washington. Here's a 1.5 near Tillamook, Oregon. This 2.4 was down in Northern California in the same area where we had an 8.0 major earthquake just about 4 months ago. Okay, so this 2.4 near Rio Del 2 days ago is an aftershock of that 8.0 earthquake. USGS tried to pass it off as a 6.8 earthquake. It was an 8.0, and at the time it happened, we showed you evidence of that. Okay? This one is a 0.3 microquake 2 days ago. 12.2 kilometers. Okay? About 6 miles from Mount Rainier. 0.3 microquake. Tillamook, Oregon, a 1.7. 0.9 near Glacier Peak, and we spoke about this after it happened. One near Yakima, Washington, 4.3 kilometers away, 1.7. A 0.1 over east into Antioch, Washington. Mount Baker up near the Canadian border, just south of the Canadian border. Here's a 1.5. Remember, USGS and PNSN have stopped reporting from Mount Baker. Heaven forbid we know anything about Mount Baker. Enumclaw, Washington, a 0.6. And that was 16.8 kilometers, which is about 8 miles. Okay? Here's a 0.6 microquake near Enumclaw, Washington. about 8 miles away. Here's another 1.6 near Antioch, Washington. This is a 1.2, 60.4 kilometers. That's about 48 miles from Mount Jefferson, Oregon. Okay? There's a reason I'm showing you this. Here is a 0.8, 4.8 kilometers, 2 miles from Newberry Crater, Newberry Volcano. Okay? This is not all, guys. There's more. Now let me enlarge this as well for you so you can see what we're talking about. I don't want anybody to be left out from seeing this. This is a 1.0 tremor, 22.7 kilometers, about 12 miles from Mount St. Helens. Here's another 1.0, 52.7 kilometers, which is about 43 miles from Yakima, Washington. This is now 12 hours ago. It says 4 hours, but that was earlier today. Okay, here's a 0.1 near Mount St. Helens. Okay, 1.4 kilometers away. It's right next to Mount St. Helens. It's in the foothills of Mount St. Helens. Here's a 2.5 off the coast of Oregon. This was on the Blanco fracture zone. On the Blanco fracture zone. Okay? North of the Blanco fracture zone, we have the Juan de Fuca fault. But this was further east on the Blanco fracture zone. Okay? Let me hold this here for a minute. Okay? I want to show you where the Blanco fracture zone is. Okay? No, this is too far north. Sorry, hold on a second. I'll find this thing. Well, there we go. You see where the Blanco fracture zone is, guys? If you go about, I want to say 3/4 of an inch to the left, 3/4 of an inch to the west, that's where that 2.2 was. Or I should say 2.5 was. On the Blanco fracture zone. To the northwest is the Juan de Fuca fault. You see where the Juan de Fuca plate is? It's between the Blanco fracture zone, the Explorer plate, and the Cascadia subduction zone. The Cascadia subduction zone is that red line closest to the coast that runs from Queen Charlotte Island to the north in British Columbia all the way down here to the Gorda Escarpment in Northern California, where the Gorda Escarpment meets up with the Cascadia subduction zone and the north end of the San Andreas Fault. Okay? So that's where we're at here. Let's go back here. Okay? I just wanted to make sure that you knew what we're talking about here. I think this is very important, or I would not even be bringing it up. We're back here again. The 2.5 off the coast of Oregon was on the Blanco fracture zone. That was about 18 hours ago. This 2.0 was just over 28 hours ago, over off of Ferndale, California. This was also where that 8.0 was. Okay? What USGS tried to pass off was a 6.8. It was an 8.0. Okay? This is an aftershock of that. Going further south here, just south of Ferndale is the town of Petrolia, probably about 15 miles south of Ferndale. Petrolia, California. This is also off the coast of Petrolia, off the coast of California. This is a 2.9 3.0. This was at the Triple Junction. The Gorda Escarpment, the Cascadia Subduction Zone, and the San Andreas Fault. A 3.0 earthquake here just over 24 hours ago. Okay? Again, here's a 0.1 microquake at Mount Rainier. 0.8 kilometers from Mount Rainier. It's in the foothills of Mount Rainier. Okay? Less than a quarter of a mile from Mount Rainier. It's in the foothills. The one below it here is 0.3 microquake. 2.6 kilometers is about a mile from Mount St. Helens. Again, this is in the foothills, probably on the magma channel that feeds Mount St. Helens. Okay? This one here is 0.8, 15.7 kilometers from Mount Rainier. Also probably at the magma channel that feeds Mount Rainier. This one here, 1.1, 14.7 kilometers from Morton, Washington. This is at Mount St. Helens. 0.9 Astoria, Oregon. Okay? 26.5 kilometers, about 20 miles from Astoria, Oregon. 1.7 a tremor, 31.3 kilometers from Canby, Oregon, about 23 miles from Canby, Oregon. And then we end this one with a 1.9 tremor, 2.0 earthquake. Again, the 0.9 society, guys. This one is up in British Columbia. British Columbia. Part of the Cascadia subduction zone region. The Cascadia subduction zone region. Every one of these quakes. Every one of them. It's part of the region of subduction. We know for a fact what's happening here. We know without anything else. We know what's happening here. Okay? The Cascadia subduction zone is getting hit. I'm talking about the region now, not the earthquake fault. I'm talking about the region. The entire region is getting hit with earthquakes. Some of them are at volcanoes, regardless of where USGS says they are. They're at the volcanoes or the supplying magma chambers. Okay? The Cascadia subduction zone is real. It is real, guys. A lot of people don't even realize it because USGS and PNSN hide the information. Now, I have good people that work for me. Good people that are part of our disaster groups. Earthquake and Volcanoes disaster groups on Messenger. An earthquake disaster group on Facebook. If you haven't already been on Facebook, I consider you that you might need to do this, unless you absolutely don't want to do it for political reasons, and that's fine as well. But if you are on Facebook now and want to become a part of our Quakes and Volcanoes group, please do it. Please do become a member of our group. You can ask yourself to be a member of our group, and one of us will let you be there. I'm one of the admins for that group. Okay? All you have to do is submit it, and we'll get it to you. Okay? But I want to make sure you're aware of what's going on. This is Friday. This is Friday. Now, we've also had a pretty darn good sized earthquake down just off the coast of Mexico. And I've taken a lot of heat for it. Okay? There was a gentleman, and I don't know. I don't even know whether I should even mention his name. I've tried to keep from mentioning his name for the past 4.5 years. But he made a statement that this 6.5 earthquake that USGS is now downgraded to a 6.4, he said that this earthquake was seismic energy that was bouncing around from Puerto Rico all the way back to here, back and forth. Sorry guys, it does not work that way. It absolutely does not work that way. Now, let me close this out. Let me bring up the USGS map again. I hate it, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to bring up the USGS map because I want to show you what I'm talking about. Let's leave the Pacific Northwest here now, since they're not showing everything we want to know. Okay, this is another earthquake, this 4.6 it hit today on the Blanco fracture zone where that 2.5 hit the other day. Now we have a 4.6. This is a moderate earthquake. A moderate earthquake. Earthquake tracker is calling it, it's earthquake light. It's a light earthquake. No, it's not. No, it's not. A 3.0 could be considered a light earthquake. You know, again, these agencies don't want to shake anybody up. Small 3.0. 3.0 to 3.9 are considered to be small earthquakes. A light earthquake could be described as a 3.0 to a 3.9, a light earthquake. This is a 4.6 moderate earthquake. 4.6 moderate earthquakes cause damage. They knock pictures and plaques off of walls. They cause tremors that knock knickknacks and books off of shelves. They are shaking that's visible. A 3.0 to 3.9 is shaking that you can feel beneath your feet. And I would even say a 3.7 to 3.9, you're going to feel more than just the shaking beneath your feet. You're going to have plates rattling, glasses knocking against each other. Small 3.8, 3.9 earthquake, that's what's going to happen. It's going to happen even more in a 4.6 earthquake, as this was today. This was off the coast of Bend in Oregon. The exact same place where we had the 2.5 the other day. Okay? So let's go down here to southern Mexico. Again, look at all these places that they don't have earthquakes today. Nothing. They show no earthquakes here when there are earthquakes. Go figure. Go figure. Folks, this is a 6.4. Now, it first came out as a 6.5. They downgraded to 6.4 earlier. Now they've downgraded it to a 6.3. Okay? They're only showing one aftershock. Since we've been on the air, folks, since we've been on the air, there have been more earthquakes here than were here earlier. This is a 5.2 aftershock. A 5.2 aftershock of at least a 6.5. Okay? Off the coast of Mexico. Now, I want to show you something. See where this earthquake hit? off the coast of southern Mexico, there were 28 felt reports. 28 felt reports. You want to know what those felt reports were? Long, sustained shaking. My bed and I moving back and forth sideways. Long, sustained shaking. Okay? Long, sustained shaking. Think about that for a minute. This supposedly was a 6.4 very strong earthquake. It occurred on the western perimeter of the Caribbean plate, which is what they call the Cocos Plate, involving no fewer than 4 major plates: the North American Plate, the South American Plate, the Nazca NAZCA Plate, and the Cocos Plate. Okay? The western perimeter of the Caribbean Plate. Where is the Caribbean Plate? The Caribbean Plate is out here. Okay? This was just barely off the coast of southern Mexico, almost right next to Guatemala. Why do I talk about Guatemala? See this earthquake fault that leaves Guatemala headed east? What is that? It's the Cayman Ridge, the Cayman Trench, that runs all the way over here, past the Cayman Islands, south of the Cayman Islands, north of Jamaica, skirting Cuba, going north of Haiti and the Dominican Republic, north of Puerto Rico, and then skating around the Leeward Islands. And just north of there, right here, right up here, we had a 6.6 magnitude earthquake just days ago. A 6.6 magnitude earthquake here just days ago. Now, the gentleman I referred to has, shall I say, programs on YouTube and Twitch. So now I've told you who he is, but without mentioning his name. He said that this 6.6 energy out here in the North Atlantic was bouncing around here all the way over here to the Cocos Plate. I'm calling bourgeois. I'm calling bourgeois. That's not what happens. I'm telling you guys, that does not happen. Okay? Now, I know what he usually does. He shows a wave tank, a great big circular wave tank. And he shows water that surges up to the middle, and then it goes back out. Surges up to the middle and goes back out. Okay? Been there, done that. I've been there and done that. Okay? Let me do this. I want to show you something else, and I think it's very important, and that's why we're going there. Folks, I have the same, well, I can't say the same. he has some software that I don't use all the time. Let's put it that way. He does have some software that I don't use all the time. But for kicks and giggles, I'm going to use it now. Okay? I'm going to use it now because I want to show you what is going on. Let me do this. Okay, I'm going to show you this in just a shake. I'm trying to put all this together so you can see what I'm talking about. So just give me a second here. I'm trying to set this software up so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, I've got it here. Let me take this map down. Let me go down here and bring up my earthquake 3D map. There we go. Now I'm showing it to you. Okay? Let me make sure that I can use this and move it around here to show you what's going on. Okay, let me reduce the picture of my mug here. I'll still let you see me, but I'm going to reduce this here so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay? All right. I haven't shown this to you in quite some time, but we're going here right now. Just bear with me for a second. Okay, here we are. You can see what I'm talking about now, okay? See where that 6.5 was today? Just off the coast of southern Mexico. And just a minute ago you saw that 6.6, didn't you? Over here in the North Pacific. I'm sorry, the North Atlantic. Sorry, boy, was that a faux pas. Let me bring this back here so you can see what I'm showing you here. I hope I can show it to you here. There we go, right there. There is a 6.6 here. Okay? He says that the seismic energy is going back and forth between this 6.6 and this 6.5 that hit off the coast of Mexico. Sorry folks, no cigar. No cigar. Yes, we have one thing in common between where this earthquake is just off the coast of Mexico today. Okay? That is the Cayman Trench. Okay? This is north of the Cayman Trench. This 6.6 here is north of the Cayman Trench here. So no, the seismic energy is not bouncing around in that great big proverbial wave tank. It's not doing that. Okay? This earthquake came as a result of other 4.5s, 4.6s, 4.0s, 3.9, 5.0s here. Just off the coast and on in Mexico, southern Mexico. That's where this came from. Look at all of this energy here in the past week down here in South America. This also does not show all of the seismic energy that has come up here in Central America either. This 6.5 magnitude earthquake happened as a result of seismic energy that came from down here in South America, over here in Central America, and the swarms of 3s and 4s that have occupied this area of southern Mexico. Okay? Look at that. Look at this. Now I am showing you all of that seismic activity. 2s, 3s, 4s. South America, Central America, and now here in South America. Southern Mexico, I should say. You can see it. You can see what I'm talking about. Look at all those 4.2s over there in southern Mexico. All the 4.4s and 5.2s. Okay? I have been calling for at least a 5.0 to a 6.0 magnitude earthquake over here in southern Mexico for months now. Now we have at least a 6.5 here. We have at least a 6.5 earthquake. Okay? That is a fact. That is a fact. Seismic energy is not going back and forth between the Atlantic Ocean and over here on the Cocos Plate. Not happening. It can't happen, regardless of what that other D man says. It's impossible. It's impossible. Thunder Signs Diana says, it's my Mr. Ron's birthday today. Mr. Ron, wherever you are, Thunderbird Signs Diana, happy birthday, Ron. We appreciate you. You and your dear wife. Thank you so much. Betty Zoom says, wow, so busy. Oh yeah, look at that. This is what's been happening over the last week and a half to 2 weeks. Fact. That's a fact. Okay? It's crazy, guys. It's almost lunacy. It's literally almost lunacy. We have been watching this for quite some time here. We've been watching this happen for quite some time. Okay? I don't want to joke about this. I don't want to joke about it because it's real. It's very real. If I were to joke about it, I would not be any kind of citizen scientist. I've been showing you this information for quite some time now. Okay? Look at all the other earthquakes hitting here in central and northern Mexico and down here in Southern California. Rob52, my dear friends, here. He says, I'm late. Hello, everyone. And Rob, I'm sorry I wasn't able to take your call when he called. He called right before I was to go on the air, and I'm sorry I missed your call. We can talk after this program. I would love that. Rob is a dear friend of mine. Okay? A lot of my mods are. They're very, very close, dear brothers of mine, and I love every one of them. And sisters as well. Diana's here. I appreciate her. Demon Catman's here. Heather's been in and out. She's worried tonight about weather. By the way, guys, there are a bunch of tornadoes and thunderstorms in the central Midwest, and those are moving east over into Illinois, Indiana, and into the East Coast. So you folks need to batten down the hatches up there in the Northeast. Today, tomorrow, and Sunday at least. You're not out of the woods. Okay? You're not out of the woods at all. And if you look close here, okay, look what it's saying about North Carolina. A 2.5 and a 2.7 here in the last 2 days. Okay? About an hour and 20 minutes northwest of me. An hour and 20 minutes northwest of me. But look at all these earthquakes, guys. This is not a joke. This really is not a joke at all. This is serious business. This is real serious business. Okay? I'm trying to zoom in here on the west. I want to show you this. Okay? I think it's pertinent to what we're talking about. Look at this 4.5 over here. Okay? Guess where it's at? That's in Yellowstone. Look where this 4.6 was today off of Bandon, Oregon. Okay? What does D-Man say when we have these earthquakes and the earthquake boundaries intersect? For example, that one there in Bandon, Oregon, intersecting with this one over here in Wyoming, in Yellowstone area. Okay? Let me try to bring this back here. Boy, did I bring it back in a big way. Look at that, guys. Okay? A 4.2 and a 4.6. The overlapping area, guys, is in central Idaho and eastern Oregon. That's where those earthquake boundaries overlap. So I would say if you guys are in that area of central to western Idaho and you're also in Oregon and that area, look out. There is going to be a subsequent earthquake in that area. That part of what the D-Man says is basically true. Okay? It's true. Look at all the earthquakes in Alaska. Look at all the earthquakes in Alaska and over in Hawaii. In Hawaii. Now, let me take this down for a few minutes. I made my point with where these earthquakes were. Okay? I've not finished with Hawaii now. Let me show you what happened over in Hawaii. Well, first, before I take you to Hawaii, let's go over and show you the helioplots. The helioplots that prove how strong that earthquake was down there in southern Mexico today. This particular heliplot comes from over in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Albuquerque, New Mexico. With this heliplot alone, guys, guess what? This would definitely show a 6.4, 6.5 earthquake. Okay? We have at least 4 back-to-back earthquakes that hit here, which would go along with what they said happened in Mexico. 28 felt reports and written felt reports that we can't access from USGS, but we can access from the EMSC, the European agency. Yeah, we can pull that information. Let me go over here and pull that information. Just a second here. Oh, come on, there's got to be a better way of doing this. I thought it, oh, here it is right here. All right, let me go back. And you guys can access this application too. It's called Last Earthquake. The EMSC puts this app out so you can look at all of the earthquakes that have happened today or at any time in the last 24 hours, and even longer in some cases. Okay? Off the coast of Chiapas, Mexico, exactly where this earthquake hit, there's been numerous 4s all over the place. Literally. All over the place. And there's more earthquakes happening all the time. Okay? There's been numerous 4s all over that. Okay? Aftershocks from that 6.4, 6.5 earthquake. Okay? While I'm trying to bring this up, let me show you another heliplot. Okay? This one, like I said, was from Albuquerque, New Mexico. You can see it. This was further east over at the Honduras. I'm sorry, not further east, further south. This is just north and east from where it hit. Okay? You can see what exactly happened on this seismograph, or this heliplot. Numerous earthquakes. It wasn't just 1 or 2 or 3. This is numerous 6.5s back to back to back. The major earthquake that hit here, well, I'm sorry, not major, the very strong earthquake that hit here today, the very strong earthquake that hit here today lasted a good hour. It lasted a good hour. As one person said, I was lying in bed and felt myself and my bed moving from side to side. One person, and that was from 228 kilometers away in Valdese, Las Casas, Mexico. Another person that was 281 kilometers away said light shaking back and forth. Again, this is a great deal of time away, a great deal of mileage away from this earthquake. Okay? Quite a ways away. Lying in bed and felt myself in the bed moving side to side. The people that I'm talking about reading these messages of felt reports were 211 miles away. 211 miles away. Then there was a felt report coming from Belize, over near where Larry lived. The person was laying down in bed. Everyone was sleeping. And I felt the ground move. 407 miles from the epicenter of that quake. That was quite a quake. 6.5 magnitude earthquake. Okay? Now, one person said this. One person said that he described this quake as quite long and a bit intense at times. Quite long and a bit intense at times. Bastante largo y un poco intenso por momentos. Bastante largo y un poco intenso por momentos. Quite long and a bit intense at times. Yes, folks, I went and made sure that I had the translation right. Okay? It happened in the early morning hours, and there was a lot of shaking. Okay? Now, I told you that I differ with Mr. D. Okay? He said that this earthquake and the one over in the North Atlantic, that they were sharing seismic energy, going back to back to back, side to side. It's not. Okay? This earthquake is in an area of incline zones of deep earthquakes. Incline zones of deep earthquakes. The Wadeti and Penyoff zones. The ocean trenches. The ocean trenches off the coast of southern Mexico. We have shown these ocean trenches to you throughout the years. Okay? This next site or heliopod that I'm showing you now came from about as far east as you're going to get in the United States. This is in Missouri. Cathedral Cove in Missouri. Look how long this earthquake lasted. That person that said in Mexico, 220 miles away in Mexico, he said it was long duration and intense at times. Look how long this earthquake lasted. The intensity are the lines that are closest together. The intensity are all of those long lines that are close together. Intense shaking, because the ground is going back and back and back. One earthquake after another. And that's what we're seeing here. This earthquake probably lasted a good 2 hours. And the subsequent foreshocks you see here as well, as in this 5.2 that hit prior to this 6.5. And there was another 5.2 on the other side. Okay? And it's still shaking. As you can see on this heliplot, okay, we can see where the earthquake started. Okay? We can count down lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines. And the ground is still somewhat shaking. 9 hours later. Each of these lines represents an hour of time. An hour of time. 9 hours later, when I pulled this this helioplot, 9 hours later, the ground was still shaking. No joke, guys. That was an intense quake. And it wouldn't surprise me that we will see this quake last until probably another hour from now. Okay? That would not surprise me in the least. But again, what are we talking about here? What are we talking about here, guys? This area, like I said, is in an area of inclined zones of deep earthquakes. Yes, we've had a lot of deep earthquakes. We've told you that. 200, 300 miles deep earthquakes. Ocean trenches here. Ocean trenches here. No joke. No joke at all. This is a major deal. Okay? I'm not trying to paint a pretty picture here. Quite the opposite. I don't think the shaking is anywhere near close to stopping. I just don't think so. Let me close this one out and show you another slide here. What I'm showing you here is where this earthquake hit, in southern Mexico, right next to Guatemala, literally. You see that line closest here to the landmass, southern Mexico and Central America. That is the Cocos Plate. That's the Cocos Plate. The Cocos Plate is subducting underneath the Caribbean Plate, 64 millimeters a year. Okay? It's clearly indicative of an area of volcanoes. Popocatépetl, northeast of there, southeast of Mexico City, as well as 4 volcanoes in Guatemala, 3 volcanoes in Nicaragua, and 1 in El Salvador, and 3 more over in Costa Rica to the south. Incredible. It's also an area very truthfully, an area of subduction in the oceanic lithosphere, down underneath the plate, along the Central American and the Atlantic Ocean margins of the Caribbean Plate. Wall crustal seismicity in Guatemala, northern Venezuela, and the Cayman Ridge and the Cayman Trench indicate transform faults, pull-apart basin tectonics, pull-apart basins over there in the Caribbean Sea. Okay, that's what we're talking about there. Pull-apart basin tectonics along the northern margin of the Caribbean Plate. Okay? Northern margin of the Caribbean Plate. Where is that? The Cayman Ridge. We're talking about the Cayman Ridge. Okay? In that area, the Caribbean Plate, the velocity is approximately 20 millimeters per year, north to south. The motion is accommodated along several major transform faults that extend eastward from Isle de Rotan to Haiti. That's on the eastern side of, oh, let me show you. Let me get rid of this here. Let's go back down and pull up the USGS map here. Okay? Sorry to shake you guys, I didn't mean to do that. Okay? The Caribbean Plate is right here, guys. The Cayman Trench here. Okay? We're talking about from over here in the Cayman Islands, right up here, all the way to Haiti, right here. This is Haiti right here. That's quite a distance, huh? That's huge. Several major transform faults extend eastward to Haiti, including Swan Island Fault and the Orient Fault. These faults represent the southern and northern boundaries of the Cayman Trench. The southern and northern boundaries of the Cayman Trench, right here. You see the Cayman Trench right here. The southern boundaries is over here in Haiti that you can clearly see over here in Jamaica area. The southern boundary here. Okay? Further east from the Dominican Republic to the island of Barbuda. Okay? That's way over here. The island of Barbuda is way over here. I don't even know if they're going to let us see this. Nope, they're not. They're not going to let us zoom in close enough to see that. That's too bad. But you can see what I'm talking about. Okay? The motion between the North American Plate, okay? What is that? The continental United States here. The North American Plate. The motion between the North American Plate between the Caribbean Plate. Okay? You can see all that here. The motion becomes increasingly complex and is partially accommodated by an arc, a parallel subduction of the North American Plate beneath the North American Plate beneath the Caribbean Plate. A partial subduction. Okay? This results in the formation of the deep Puerto Rico Trench. The deep Puerto Rico Trench. Well over here. And you can see it. Although the Puerto Rico subduction zone is thought to be capable of generating a megathrust earthquake, folks, 8.0 to 10.0, there have been no such events in the past 100 years. The last probable interplate thrust fault megathrust earthquake event may have occurred as early as May 2nd, 1787. It was widely felt throughout the island and was documented destruction across the entire northern coast, including Arecibo and San Juan, Puerto Rico. The island of Guadeloupe to the east was a site of one of the largest megathrust earthquakes to occur in the region, February 8, 1843. The island of Guadeloupe over here. Okay? That was the largest megathrust earthquake in 1843 in that region, with a suggested magnitude. Can you imagine an 8.0 magnitude earthquake hitting here in Guadeloupe? Yeah, absolutely. And then down here in the Lesser Antilles. Let's talk about this for a second. The largest recent intermediate depth earthquake to occur in the Lesser Antilles was November 29th, 2007. There was a magnitude 7.4 earthquake in Martinique, northwest of Fort-de-France. A 7.4 major earthquake in Martinique, 2007. Okay? Along the western coast of Central America. Let's pull this back over here. Let's go back over here to the west coast of Central America here. Okay? I'm just trying to diagram this so you can see it. I think it's important here. Along the western coast of Central America, the Cocos Plate that I showed you there subducts towards the east, beneath the Caribbean Plate. The Cocos Plate goes underneath the Caribbean Plate at the Middle American Trench. At the Middle America Trench in Central America. This subduction results in relatively high rates of seismicity, meaning earthquakes that happen all the time, and we've seen that in Panama, we've seen it in Costa Rica, in Nicaragua and El Salvador, and somewhat in Guatemala. The intermediate focused earthquakes occur within the subducted Cocos Plate to nearly a depth of 300 kilometers deep. 1900. Since 1900, the largest earthquake to occur along the Panama Fracture Zone, right here, was July 26, 1962. There was a major 7.2 earthquake here. A major 7.2 earthquake. Okay? That's a big deal. Now you can see where that 6.5 earthquake came from. I've just now tried to explain to you why this earthquake hit here. Mr. D, in my opinion, just my own opinion, and I don't want to offend anybody that's watching this program that thinks Mr. D is God, because even I thought very highly of him even a couple of years ago, when I think he got a little big for his shoes. I've been paying attention to Mr. D for probably close to 10 years. But he got a little bit big for his shoes. And in this case, where he says that the seismic energy is running back and forth between the Puerto Rican Trench to the northeast of Puerto Rico and over here to the Cocos Plate, no, it doesn't happen that way. It absolutely does not happen. Yes, there are transform faults out here. Yes, there are. But seismic energy does not bounce east and west like Mr. D says it did. It hasn't. It has not. And it probably will not. Now, I'm not a doctor. I am not a PhD. I don't have a major, what do they call it? A master's degree in geology. Yes, I do have a degree, but I don't have a master's. But it doesn't matter, because back when I got my degree was what? 50 years ago. Science has changed. And yes, I've kept up with the science. I have had to in order to do this program, regardless of what that Charles Richter says. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Folks, this is what's going on. We do have a lot of earthquakes happening. Southern Mexico just got hit by their major earthquake. No, it was not a major, but it was a very strong 6.5, and I honestly believe this may have been a 6.8. This may have been as close to a 6.8. Okay? I'm just saying. I've been watching what's going on. I've been part of this for a very, very, very long time. Okay? I don't know everything. But when I get my hands on information, I try to study it so I can tell you about it. Okay? And I'm a semi-bright bulb in the electrical line. I keep my eyes and ears open. I watch what's going on all the time. Not just part of the time, but all the time. And I try to tell everybody about it all the time. Because it may cost you your life if we don't talk about it. That's how serious this is. Okay? It could cost someone their life if they are not aware of what's going on. Okay? I've seen it. And I've seen it happen more times than I want to talk about. I think it's very tragic when it does happen. Okay? I think it's very tragic when it does happen. But it does. And I can't take my eyes off of it. I just can't. And I won't. I feel an obligation to everyone to share what's going on to the best of my knowledge. And if there's someone else that has ideas, oh yeah, bring them out. Don't put me down. Don't yell and scream at me and tell me I'm a kook. But talk to me. I'll even put you on here if you have a point of view. That's not a problem. Just make sure you have evidence so we can show it to the masses. Because again, everybody has a right. Everybody needs to know the truth. And when people don't know the truth is when the truth stops. Literally. Literally, and I would even say figuratively. That's when the truth stops. When we can no longer find the truth ourselves. Okay? Just a second, I want to show you something. Okay. Oh, wouldn't you know? Wouldn't you know? I want to show you this, okay? Let me take this map down. I don't even like using the map, but I have to sometimes. I have to use it sometimes. But the fact of the matter is this. Look at all the earthquakes here in this area, just off the coast of southern Mexico. That big red dot is 20 plus earthquakes. 20 plus earthquakes, it says. Okay? I can expand that out, and I can find that now downgraded quake to 6.3. The downgraded quake that's now downgraded to 6.3. I can also show you a quake that is a 5.2 aftershock. Okay? And there's still 10 plus quakes here, and a lot more actually. Okay? For example, here. This is on the southeast side here. This is a 3.8 small earthquake. In the water. In the water. Look at all the other aftershocks. That big dot is 10 plus more quakes. Okay? 4.1, 3.8, 3.6, 3.9, and a 4.4 that you guys found out while you tuned into my program. Okay? And that's not all. 10 plus other quakes here. Look at that. For those people that have been with me 2 years or more, what does this look like? What does this look like? Lined up earthquakes east and west and north and south. Tunnels, guys. That looks like they're trying to put away tunnels under the ocean. Okay? Going north. This is a 3.9, 4.0. Okay? Southwest. Southwest. This is a 4.2 here. Okay? To the southeast, we have a 4.0. Right next to it, we have a 4.0. Two 4.0s right next to each other. Just south of there, we have another 4.2, a 4.0, and a 3.8. 3 earthquakes in an east-west area, east to west. Nearly the same magnitude earthquake. Nearly the same magnitude earthquake underneath the ocean there. We go south, right here. That, folks, is another 3.8 there. We go south again, where we have a 4.0 and another 4.2 here. Okay? A 4.2 here. 15 miles deep. A depth of 15 miles deep, guys. 15 miles deep. Let's go back up to this row of earthquakes right here. That center one was 4.0 earthquake. .9 miles deep. One to the east of there, right next to it. 10 miles deep, guys. 10 miles deep. The one next to it to the west, 10 miles deep. Okay? This looks like exactly what we talked about a year, 2, and even 3 years ago. In northern Mexico, right next to the US-Mexico border, just off the coast of Southern California, off the coast. Let me bring it up here. I want to show you. There was 150 earthquakes off the coast of Vancouver Island. One after another, right next to each other. Guess what? Each of those was 4 miles deep. There were over 150 earthquakes here 2 years ago. 2 years ago. Side by side, up and down, north and south, east to west. Off the coast of Vancouver and northern Washington here. Spain. Spain. Let me show you something over in Spain, guys. Okay? Let me show you. Over here in southern Spain, I want to show you this. There's basically 4 earthquakes. Over here in west central Spain, and I'm going north to south here, a 2.25, a 2.07, and a 1.77. Okay? These are not in any way side by side, east to west, north to south. Okay? This one over here that I told you about, this 1.77 tremor, this is 4.2 miles deep. 4.2 miles deep. The one to the west and north of there is a 2.07. 2.8 miles deep. That's a little bit of a difference. The one north of there is a 2.25. This is 4 miles deep. Okay? Do you see what I'm talking about? These, I don't believe, are tunnels. I don't believe those are tunnels. Okay? Those are not tunnels. It doesn't happen now. Okay? It's not happening. Okay? There's a big difference. One of those to the south there in Spain was 69 miles deep. Before, all of those earthquakes were lining up east to west and north to south. Anywhere from 2 to 4 miles deep. Tunnels. Tunnels. And yet, oh darn, it keeps closing. I'm sorry. I've shown you what I'm talking about. That kept closing down. I don't know why. But I'm showing you, this is not tunnels. This is not tunnels. This time, these are earthquakes. These are earthquakes. Does anybody have any questions? Carl Sr. is asking, who's making these tunnels? Humans? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Can you say military, Carl? Military? Could be when it was in Spain, it could have been United States military and Spanish soldiers or European soldiers. these tunnels were used for trafficking. A lot of these tunnels, or most of them, have now been destroyed. Maybe I can go back through my notes. Yes, I still have notes. Maybe I can go back through some of my notes and pull up notes showing you pictures of where these earthquakes hit. Maybe I have them still. I might. Unfortunately, that was on the other channel before YouTube took it down. Supposedly because of a hacker, but I don't believe that anymore. I had 25,000 subscribers. And I think I was knocking on too many people's doors. Literally. Knocking on their doors, and they did not like it. And I say too bad for them. At least I have always told the truth about all of it. Okay? That's a fact. You can take that to the bank. Okay? We saw tunnels all over the place back then. All over. Some of the tunnels were even out in the North Pacific. Who's making those tunnels? Okay? In fact, let's talk about this for a second, Carl. Carl Sr. here in the chat. They have great, big, huge machines. 20 feet tall, 20 feet wide, digging tunnels. I have seen the machines. I will in fact go and try to see if I can find pictures of these machines to show you. There's a lot of tunnels underneath the North Pacific, running between Russia and the United States, running between Japan and the United States. And they had I believe they have high-speed rail trains going beneath them for military purposes. Okay? Back in the day, just a couple years ago, I had a lot of evidence to prove it. Now I'd have to go back and try to find it. But anyway, that's what I found. Okay? Rob52 says, I wonder if there was the same used to make subways in cities, like even New York. Possibly. Possibly. Why not? I saw 20-foot tunnels when I was in Stockholm. 20-foot tall and wide tunnels when I was in Stockholm. I have not seen the big, huge, high-speed rails in Los Angeles, but I understand from seeing some pictures they are probably the same way in Los Angeles and other cities throughout the United States. Would not surprise me at all. Carl C. says, who would have thunk? I agree. I said the same thing, Carl. I said the same thing. The more deeper I got into the subject, I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and yet that's what I saw. It's hard to even believe. Who would have thunk? Guys, we're coming to the close of our program. I did have some more things to say, but it's far late. It's already 9:30 here in the East Coast, and I'm sorry it's taken this long. I had a lot to say. And then I got sidetracked a lot and said a lot more. Anyway, guys, Tomas S. is here. He says, believe me or not, but one woman sent me info. It was a week or so ago, but there was an unsuspected by her smog in the air. Something like sulfur oxide in the air. She lives near mines in the area. Wouldn't surprise me. Not surprising at all. Linda Covington says England and British Isles to continent. Yes, between between the British Isles and France. They have a deep underground tunnel going between England and France. Oh yeah, happens all the time. But in this case, when we were having all of these earthquakes all the time, almost every day, we believed that they were blowing up these tunnels, closing them down. I have my beliefs that some of it was adult and child trafficking operations. And it's still going on. But I don't believe all of the tunnels are open. They're using other methods of trafficking through aircraft and trains and boats all the time. It's still going on. We know for a fact it is. Demon Cat says Dover to Calais. Yeah. Yeah. You're right, Demon Cat. Absolutely. Folks, before I leave, please share this program far and wide. We've given you a ton of information tonight. And yes, I got a little bit sidetracked at times to give you even more information. But at least we got through it, didn't we? Share this program with everybody. Everybody needs to see it. It proves a point. It proves a point about earthquakes that we talked about. We talked about politics. Hopefully we're going to avoid a WAR. I hope. I hope. Share this program far and wide. Your friends, your neighbors, your loved ones, family, extended family, the people you work with, and even your social media contacts. Share this far and wide. Tell people about our channel. Tell them that they might be interested in, and have them take a look at our programs. Have them come in on a live program. I'd be happy to meet them too. Get my attention and tell me that they're here, and I will tell them hi. Okay? I will welcome them to our channel. We want to get people here so we can give them emergency information. That's what this channel is about. Not just earthquakes, but any kind of disaster that exists. We talked about snowstorms. We talked about inline winds, 42, 50, 100 mile an hour sideways winds. We've talked about straight line downwinds, dangerous winds like that. We talked about the tornadoes. We talked about snowstorms. We talked about rain. We talked about flooding. We talked about droughts. We talked about explosions, fires and wildfires all over the world. That's what we do. Okay? Diane Myers says, good program. God bless Ron and all. And I second that. God bless you all. I want to share a scripture for you and with you. This comes from the Gospel of John. I love this book. There's so much good in this book. If you guys could see all the scriptures I have marked here, you'd be amazed. But I want to show you this, or tell you about this. This is John chapter 5, and it's verse 39 and 40. Verse 39 and 40. Search the scriptures, for in them ye think ye have eternal life, and they are they which testify of me. And ye will not come to me that ye might have life. And ye will not come to me that ye might have life. Verse 41. I receive not honor from men, but I know you. Verse 42. I know you that ye have not the love of God in you. And I am in my Father's name, and ye receive me not. If another shall come in his own name, him ye will receive. How can ye believe which receive honor one of another, and seek not the honor that cometh from God only? Then the kicker, the next three verses, 45, 46, and 47. Do not think that I will accuse you to the Father. There is one that accuses you, even Moses, in whom ye trust. For had ye believed Moses, you would have believed me, for he wrote of me. But if ye believe not his writings, how shall ye believe my words? Search the Scriptures, brothers and sisters. Search the Scriptures and you will find truth. Search the Scriptures and you're going to find truth. Tomas S. says that there is a huge under Berlin city underneath the city. Not surprising. The same thing is in Denver. I have been there and I've seen it. And those tunnels are at least 20 feet wide and 20 feet tall. I've seen it. God bless you all, brothers and sisters. I love each and every one of you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of our program. We appreciate it. Please invite everybody here that you know to see our program. We want to increase our subscriber base to our program. Be inviting of people to join here and subscribe to our program. Also, please, brothers and sisters, fans, men and women, friends, everybody, please make sure you're subscribed. Go and check your subscriptions. When I talked about it last night, between last night and today, we have 10 more subscribers. Check and make sure you are subscribed. YouTube continues to unsubscribe people. Make sure you subscribe, and when you subscribe, there's a little icon that you need to click on. It has a little bit of a bell in it. A circle with a bell in it. It's tiny now. It didn't used to be. There's a tiny bell there. Click on that. When you click on that bell icon, a 3-item menu will drop up or drop down. Okay? Click on the word ALL. That should get you subscribed, or not just subscribed, but notified when we come on the air. Okay? You can subscribe and then click on that bell icon to get notified when we come on the air. Monday through Friday, you'll normally see us between 6 and 7 p.m. Weekdays. We could still come on the air at any time, and we have, in the middle of the night, the middle of the morning, the middle of the afternoon. We have come on the air to report major events, earthquakes, shootings, fires, wildfires, building fires, explosions, flooding. We've talked about just about everything, including tornadoes. So make sure you subscribe, make sure you click on that notification bell. Sometimes people still don't get notified, and I'm sorry about that. That is a YouTube problem. I think they do it on purpose. Sorry, my opinion. I hope you have a good night and a great weekend. Okay? Yes, if anything happens, we'll be coming back on the air to talk about it as soon as the information becomes available. Also, we take Saturdays off usually. If something major happens, we will come back on the air tomorrow. We will be on the air Sunday with a Sunday school class that we call Come Follow Me, the Savior Said. A Sunday school class, and we're talking about the book of Acts. The book of Acts. I'm going to be sharing my favorite scriptures with you this Sunday. I'm going to talk to you about what the apostles did. The book of Acts was written by, we believe, the guy called Luke. Okay? Because a lot of what he says in Luke is also in Acts. And he talks exactly like he said, or like he did in the book of Luke. Okay? Interesting knowledge, huh? We don't know for sure, but we believe that. Anyway, guys, be advised, we have a lot of fun with our Sunday school class, and we invite everybody to be a part of that. That starts at just about noon Sunday mornings. Just about noon. Sometimes we come on a little bit later if there's technical issues. Hopefully there won't be this coming Sunday. There were very few technical issues we ran into this past Sunday, and we came on the air about 12:10 p.m. So we will be on the air on Sunday with Sunday school. Come follow me, the Savior said. And we invite everybody to be here. We love you all. We have a lot of fun with Sunday school. We learn a lot. Okay? But please come see us for that. You can even, in the chat, ask us questions about what we're reading or what we're dealing with in the book of Acts. Ask questions, just like a normal Sunday school class. That's what we are here. Now, folks, have a good time tonight. The only thing that I'm going to do of any spectacular deal is I got tickets to a movie tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern. I got tickets to a movie tomorrow afternoon. Guess what it's called? It's called Sound of Freedom. If you haven't seen the movie, I highly recommend this movie. No, I have not seen it. I've seen a lot of preliminary video of it, and it looks like a very good movie. And it espouses the same philosophies that I have, that we all have. Freedom. Freedom. So please join us. Go to a theater and pay a few dollars to see The Sound of Freedom. You can order the movie tickets through Fandango or your favorite online movie chain. Go and see the movie. I think you're going to have a good time. It's a true story. Now, guys, I leave you with this. I love you all. I think you all know that. I love you all and think of you as not just my friends, but my family. May God bless you. May God be with you till we meet again. We will see you on the other side. Good night, everybody. Take care.